It was weird. Okay, I am now the host. All right, so we are, Connie will not be joining us today, and I have not heard from the mayor or Kimberly.
Well, I have a.
Kimberly should be
Kimberly
there.
looks like she's got herself muted.
I'm
Okay.
here.
Okay, you're there. I just can't
unmuted
see you on my
myself.
screen, but I can hear you.
I was just getting some technical assistance from my daughter with my mic and so on. So
Okay, that's great. As long as we can hear you, I don't care whether I can see you. But
yeah, I won't be audio today, or I'll only be audio. Pardon me.
Okay, but I have not heard from the mayor on whether he's going to be here or not. We do know that Connie won't be here. And we have 6 out of the 8 of you in attendance. Madam Chair, you can start the meeting if you so desire.
Oh, is our chair muted?
She is.
Jennifer, you can unmute her too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting as circulated. I wasn't there, so if anybody has any comments, can you do so?
If you weren't there, I'll make the motion then, that they be adopted as circulated.
Okay, all in
And
favor?
I'll second it.
Okay. And we'll go right into the agenda then. Or do we need to talk about, I guess there is a business arising.
Just a point of order.
Yeah.
All motions need to be voted on.
We did, we all were in favor.
Were we? I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Okay, on to the business arising report, Jennifer.
So out of last meeting's minutes, there's a couple of things that came up. We had talked about a celebration poster and of course, getting us back not only into the new building, but open again has taken a colossal amount of time and effort on staff. So we are moving forward on this now. And on the 18th, I believe, is the start of our big closeout sale at the Old Stainer branch. And part of that will, part of the component for that is a public display for the Old Stainer from the, anyway, Michelle, get on and discuss. Okay, so we are doing that, but Michelle will tell you more about that now.
Okay. You're muted, Michelle. Oh, she's frozen too.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
we can.
Can you hear us?
She's frozen, so I'm not sure what's.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, perfect. Okay.
having technical problems on her end.
Yes.
No, we can't hear you, Michelle.
Do on the third. Friday and the Saturday here at the library.
No, we're not getting it.
Okay.
Sorry, Michelle, we can't hear you. You only hear the odd word.
Okay, so I will, of course, now I can't find it. Here it is. All right, so we have a huge poster related to the event and part
Can
of-
you hear me now?
Yes. Do you want to try now? Okay, you're moving now. That's good.
That's good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? Okay,
Yes.
so
No,
No, we're getting like guitar music.
Hi, Michelle.
what we do is make postcards. We're handing them out at the sale.
Oh, she's frozen.
It's Jennifer, is she at the new building?
Mhm.
I don't know where she is.
Yes, new building.
Because if that's the Wi-Fi at the new building, that's not,
It's excellent. The Wi-Fi is excellent. There's
is it? Okay.
some problem with that. Okay, so we're going to be handing out postcards for people to take away.
It's in the study room.
Let's create a public
Mhm.
display in honor of and recognition of the new Stainer branch. But we can enlarge that to include the system as a whole. But we're going to start with this, and this is the first instance. So I don't want you to think that we're not moving on this. We are now, and this is coming up right away on Friday. So we're moving forward on this, and it should be interesting when we get everything back from the public. So that I wanted you to know that we're still moving on the celebration poster project. Strategic plan review report. We don't have one here today because again, between the summer reading program wrapping up and getting ready for that and everything else, the workload has been tremendous. We haven't been able to get to that, but there should not be a problem having one for you for the next meeting. What I need to know from you is whether you want it to simply be part of the CEO's report or a separate written report. I think in the past we had it as a section of the CEO's report, but I'm not sure.
Jennifer, do you have a preference?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it makes a lot of
We're
difference.
not writing 600 reports. I think if it was something major, I would probably do it as a separate report anyways. But if it can be a segment of my regular monthly report, that would be easiest for me to get done and ensure that it gets done every month.
Sure.
From my point of view, I don't see any problem with that. And maybe just leave it up to you to decide how you're going to present it to us.
If
Oh,
it's easier for you to
somebody else.
organize though, by having it separate, then that's fine too.
Okay.
You know, sometimes it's easier to put things to one side and keep that part of it all together. It's up to you, Jennifer.
Okay. So I'll review I'll put a little more thought into which will work best for me, but certainly for October, you should see something there. Now, recognizing that we're not hitting any of our goals
Yeah.
because
Why should
the
we?
world is in a shit show right now and we're part of it. But at least, it's good, even if we're not meeting our targets, to be reminded of what they are, because at some point we will be able to move forward on these things.
Yeah.
The library bag sale, Connie came up with this again. She was emailing me about this today. We're not accepting any cash at any of the branches right now. We have again become the pickup for the Georgian food bank, not Georgian food bank, Georgian good
Good box. Yeah.
That's great, but we're insisting that people order online because staff are not taking money.
Right.
And so the Georgian good food box people were fine with that. And we're not providing printing or faxing services. These are not core services of the library, and they can be held elsewhere. They can be had elsewhere in the municipality from businesses.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should be selling bags which people have to mull through when we're not accepting any other cash. And your worship, you've joined us. That's great. I'll make a note of that.
You're muted though, Mr. Mayor.
Well, that's okay, unless he has something to
Ooh,
say.
hey, there you are. Sorry about that. I was looking for it because I saw your message and then I couldn't find it. And anyway, I'm back.
Oh, he just left.
Well, that's okay. So I really don't think we should sell bags until we're able to accept cash in other instances. I note that the Midland Public Library is providing printing services for free, but I don't think in a year like this, it's fiscally responsible for us to provide a service for free when our revenue is way down. Now, having said that, our fines and fees don't create a huge amount of revenue, but they're still, and I recognize people are hurting. I still don't think we can justify providing that service at this time. We are letting people come in and use the computers as long as we can keep 6 feet back. We're assisting them if they've got issues with how to do something on the computer, including, you know, their own devices that they're bringing in. But I don't think we should be accepting cash just yet. And so I think we should hold off selling at the library bags at this time.
Okay.
Okay, and also Connie wanted, you know, let's put up a display of the new bags. And this is really a difficult thing for us to do. Our website, we don't own our website. It's a cooperatively owned design. And so there are very few features that we can change without getting approval from everybody involved. And that's, I believe, 12 library systems who share the same design format. We could, at some point when we are selling them, have, you know, a weekly snapshot of the newest, best looking bags and, you know, encourage people to purchase those. But some things we just, there are, we saved a lot of money by going into this as a cooperative to have it designed, but you end up with some deterrence. Pam?
I think Bob was first and then I'll
Okay.
jump in.
Okay, so I was just wondering, why would we want to put it on our website when our Facebook page is so active? Why not just put them on the Facebook page?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we can do that too. That's even, yeah. Okay.
I had another thing. Sorry, Pam.
No, that's okay. That was my point anyway. So you
Oh,
took my point.
Do we still have the Visa machine?
Yes, we do.
So we could accept debit card payments. They cost us virtually nothing.
Well,
In
the
lieu of
township
taking
is
cash.
absorbing the cost at this point because
Sorry?
the township is absorbing the cost for the ATM at this point. It hasn't been hooked up yet. Okay. So we can't just yet. I could talk to the township treasurer and ask her to make that more of a priority. But my concern is that if we accept some kinds of payment and not others, most of the people who come in for printing are not going to spend 40 cents on the ATM machine. I don't think that's there's a cost every time you have a transaction, and most of our printing costs are like way below you know, what you would consider is, if you go into a shop, a lot of them will say you have to spend this amount of money before we allow you to make the transaction by ATM. Now, some of them may have waived it right now because nobody wants to touch cash. But, you know, most people are not going to feel comfortable about spending 50 cents to $1 on their card, on their debit card.
I was thinking more about the bags idea that if you had a,
Bob, we're saying we can only sell them in Stainer because Stainer is the only branch that has an ATM. Well, not an ATM, but a debit machine.
okay,
So I just would like everything to be on a par for now. I mean, if we get into November, December and think, oh my God, we're not going to handle cash for another year or 6 months or something, we may have this discussion over again. But I really think for now, you know, when it means that only one branch can do it, probably let's be consistent. The other thing I find is that, you know, we have a lot of our CERC staff who would be doing this. They work at all 3 branches, and the best way to get them muddled up and screwed up is to have the protocols and the procedures different at each branch. So to have them doing it one way at one branch and different at another, I don't think is the best use of staff resources.
Well,
okay.
and there's a lot of other stuff to focus on as well. So, I mean, they're pretty minor in the whole big picture of what we're doing here. So,
And the other, you know, you're right, Mary. And the other thing is when people are coming in, we've had a couple of problem patrons, as we always do, but most people are coming in, getting their stuff and getting the hell out.
yeah,
They don't want to touch bags that we've touched, you know, or that somebody else has touched. I don't think there's a real, I mean, we all want to shop because we've been stuck in the house for so long, but I don't think there's a real interest in this. And I think it's a good fundraiser, but we need to move forward on this a little later in the game.
maybe towards Christmas. Maybe we have something else that goes with that. Yeah.
Well, and it might be a better time. I mean, people are
Yeah.
really scared right now because they're talking about, are the schools going to stay open? Is there going to be a second wave? I think
Yeah.
by December 1st, we should have some idea of where the world is in, or at least our little portion of it in that regard. And people might feel better about coming in, and maybe at that time we'll be accepting cash again. But I think, people are also leery about the number of kids coming in to the library now that school has started, because of course there are a lot of kids who come into the library after school before they go home. There's even kids who don't get to go into the house until their parents are home, so they camp out at the library, and they can't do that anymore. There's a lot of weirdness going on out there. But yeah, if we can hold on, like, this is a good thing to talk about, but I think we need to
Yeah.
have this conversation further down the road.
Yeah.
And those were really the only three things that came out of the minutes of the last meeting, at least that I noticed.
Okay. Moving on to your CEO report.
So we have reopened. We reopened on August 19th. We're closed to the public on Tuesday, and I will explain why. It behooves us to stay as close to our budget that was approved by both the board and council as possible. And we also need to ensure that the requirements that the provincial government has stipulated, shut up, Kat, for public libraries to reopen are in place, and that we are meeting the guidelines of the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit Medical Officer of Health. And the only way I found that we can do that is to have more staff on the floor. Most of the full-time staff are busy doing administrative or planning work for programming, or actually doing the programs, which at this point are all virtual. And so our CERC staff are the ones on the floor.
Yeah.
If I'm to meet our salaries and wages budget line, then I can't be bringing them in on Tuesday, because I can't double up staff every day that we're open. So full-time staff are in the buildings on Tuesday, but they may be in meetings, or they may be doing virtual programming, so they're not necessarily able to, or they may be on vacation, as we've had, Michelle, in a couple of instances with some of the full-timers, as you know. They may not be able to, they certainly couldn't do the CERC desk work on a consistent basis, and they're not even always there to answer the phones or the emails that we get. So we don't want to, say to the public, well, we can provide this level of service on Tuesdays, because we simply can't. So right now, our hours are our normal hours, which a lot of libraries aren't doing. A lot of libraries have changed their hours to facilitate the fact that they need more staff on.
Mhm.
But we have closed to the public on Tuesdays. This isn't going to be forever. We'll be able to reopen on Tuesdays at some point, but we don't know yet when that point is going to be. And it will be somewhat, it will be largely based on what the province says we need to do in terms of being open, and what the medical officer of health advises. So that's why we're currently closed to the public on Tuesdays. And if we are available and in the building, and the phone rings, or we get an email from a patron, we are addressing that. I'm just letting you know that the staff aren't always available to do that. So we're not actively promoting contact us on Tuesday, to place a hold on a book or what have you. It's just, we're doing it if we can, but I don't want to create an unrealistic expectation. Okay, so most of our part-time staff are getting close to, or are getting the hours they would have got pre-pandemic, but they may be getting them at slightly different times. And some of them have said, why are we? And I think, guys, it's a pandemic. Like, I'm trying to make sure your income is coming in, but there's only so much I can do. And I know that our full-time staff are doing things a little different too, because we have to meet the needs of the pandemic. So it's not just the part-timers who have been affected this way, but we are certainly trying to ensure that they're getting as close to the normal number of hours they would have gotten in a week as possible. Because I recognize that, we did have to put them on declared emergency leave, and that this has negatively affected, even if those who applied for CERB, a number of them. So we're trying to be fair to our staff, but we also have to realize that these are not normal times, and we have to act in the best interest of the staff, the public, and the municipality that's largely footing the bill. In terms of programming, we don't know when we're going to be able to do programming again. I understand that the arena is, or at least the report that went to council yesterday indicated that the arena planned, if approved, to open on October 15th in Stayner. I'm not sure, Your Worship, Councillor Broderick, when the community center is likely to open. Was any discussion brought up about that? No?
I did receive the report last night about the opening of the arena. The content of that report is on our agenda, so you can take a look at it. It's some 96 pages long. But to be fair to the staff of the Recreation Department, they have to sort of create the policies for every eventuality when they're renting the facility. So the rules for a figure skating event is a little different than a minor hockey event, a little different than a Siskins hockey. And so that's why it's kind of an extensive document. I understand that they're still working on some of the public access policies for the actual community center, the space as far as the hall, but it is available. Staff have been using it a little bit for some meetings, and council will be going to a workshop session there on the 23rd. So we're going to have a couple of opportunities to use the space, but I don't believe I have an official word from Terry about how we're renting it out. On another side of that story, though, is that the other facilities across the municipality, like the small halls in Ottawa and Duntroon, et cetera, they've all met with our staff from Recreation to make sure that they have an opening kit and are following all the correct procedures, the Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit procedures as far as contact tracing and registering everybody who's in and out and signing. So that type of procedure is already in place. It's very active at Duntroon. However, there are some of the halls that have just closed and said, no, they're not going to do it. So it's a bit of a mix. So I'm sorry, I can't answer you about the actual access to that site, but perhaps Jennifer, you can have a conversation with the staff and have a senior staff to senior staff conversation and get it sorted out. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. And I haven't pushed that on Terry yet because I recognize that he's had lots on his plate just getting the report on the arena opening. But if we look at our 3 branches, the only branch that has the possibility of having in-branch programming would be the Stayner branch, and only if we can utilize the community center, which, it is part of the deal of our being there, is that we utilize the community center. But it's the only space where we can ensure that we have, 4 to 5 people and we're 6 feet apart for all of them. Hopefully we get more than 4 to 5 people, but you understand what I'm saying.
Totally, I support that actually, Jennifer, and you're right. I think they hope that you and the library board can recognize that that facility is going to get used by other areas of the corporation here because we're going to use it at council. They've already used it in the planning department. I mean, because it is the largest indoor space we have, and it will suit the ideal of having 6-foot spacing, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's a real challenge for Terry and the staff that work there because they got to sort that out for every group that's made this request. So
that's another reason, Your Worship, that I haven't pushed them on that, because that is a whole, I don't think we need to be moving there just yet. Some libraries have started doing in-person programming, but by and large, it's being done outside. And that's great if you've always got great weather. But unfortunately, we've just moved out of the season where we're, pretty much guaranteed good weather and that we can do things outside all the time. I mean, it was nearly freezing last night where I am. And, that's, if it rains or snows, you don't want to And we can always cancel by Facebook and Twitter, but I would feel more comfortable if we had a consistent place that we could hold in branch activities. And we don't right now, so we're continuing to work virtually with all our programming.
Mhm.
I think that's all I had to say about that. The Stainer, I can tell you that a conditional offer of sale has gone through for the
Wow.
Stainer branch. We're very excited about that. So this weekend, I believe on the 18th, we start to have the big sale where we clean out everything in there. I have had another library come in and purchase some of the shelving. And we did, of course, reutilize some of the shelving in there for the other two branches. So the remaining shelving, I've talked to the township treasurer, and that it will be going to Midwest Metals, and the township will be getting the benefit of the proceeds of that because they paid for the shelving.
Yeah.
Most of which was, either really old or we got from another library system.
Right.
And so I'm working hand in glove with the township treasurer on disposal of assets in that building. Patrons have been really happy with the new building. We've got we're not even, there's hardly any seating. We don't have the coffee bar up. There's lots of things that aren't going on there right now. And they're still very enthusiastic about the building. Not that they're coming in droves, but they're letting us know as they trickle in. The group study room at the current time is being used to store a lot of the seating that we had to take out of the main part of the library. And one of the tutorial rooms has been designated for our quarantine materials. So right now, all our material is quarantined for 72 hours, which was what the CDC recommended for libraries. And I don't want it somewhere where staff are going to be on a regular basis. So it needs to be separate from staff, except when they're going in with their proper PPE on. The other tutorial room is available. Now we're asking people only to stay in the library for a maximum of 60 minutes. But if somebody had to write an exam, because we proctor a lot of exams, we would allow them to stay in the tutorial room with their own laptop and everything for a longer period of time so that we can proctor an exam. We've had a lot of itsy little problems with the new building. What I wrote in my report was that the HVAC system problems had been resolved, and then I went in on Friday and it was a mess. So, but they have fixed that since Friday. I was in yesterday for a period of time talking to the contractor, and that's been resolved. We had a leak up in the teens area, which was due to some of the siding adjacent to one of the top windows. That's been fixed. We had a leak coming from the pipes in the kitchenette and the coffee bar area. It was actually the coffee bar that was the problem, Michelle. And they have come in and fixed that as well. So, fingers crossed, when I go in tomorrow, everything should be tickety-boo. But I will say that Bonfield has been excellent. I call them, well, I don't call them, but I'll email them on the weekend and they get back to me within a half hour and they have somebody out there fixing it either that day or the next day. So the response to these deficiencies has been really good. And in fact, I got called by the site manager today to ask, if I was satisfied with the work that was done yesterday. So they're very on top of that. Hopefully we won't have to keep calling them or having contact with them much longer. But it's good to know that when something comes up, they're there and they're helping out. In the Creemore branch, we used to have TV series in the workroom. We have moved that out into the rest of the collection. So that workroom is specifically for staff. And our protocol is when you're working at your work site, as long as it's not at a circ desk, you don't have to wear your mask because nobody should be within 6 feet of you and the public aren't near you. So that's working very well. The CEO's office has been designated as the quarantine room. So I am not working in that branch at this time, as long as we're quarantining. We have retrofitted the men's washroom into the staff washroom because it's staff need their own washroom in each of the buildings, and in New Lowell and Creemore, there were no staff washrooms. So the public washroom is now the women's washroom because it has the change table in it. There is a lock on the door to the men's washroom for staff. In New Lowell, Public Works has been very good working with us. They've marked the cedar trees at the front of the entrance, the old entrance to the building for removal. So their contractor, when he comes around to remove trees that have been designated by Public Works, will include those and remove those. And for those of you who remember, we had some poisonous spiders coming into the building, and Orkin trapped them and did a reconnaissance outside the library and said, these are exactly the kind of trees where these spiders like to live. They don't normally live in buildings, but you know, they scramble around and come in through the front door. So they had advised us that we needed to get these trees out of there. So that's going to be done, and we will be billed for that, but we had assumed that we would have to take them down at some point. This isn't the time to sit around and determine what we should be putting there instead. Michelle has informed me that the hostas to further along the gardened part of the property are in great health and almost too big for the space. So unless you know you want to go with a more expensive option, or for the interim, we could have those split up and planted in the front once these are down. Now that wouldn't be until spring anyways, but there's the opportunity to put something there at minimal cost once we have the trees removed. And the washroom in the New Lowell branch, one of the washrooms has been designated for staff only. So we've solved that problem at all three branches. Okay. Now, the Ontario Trillium Foundation has come out with a grant that's between, you can ask for between $5,000 and $150,000. They had two deadlines. One was September 2nd, which I knew we weren't going to make, and the other is December 2nd. It's called the, what the heck is it called? Anybody remember?
Resilient Communities.
Yeah, Resilient Communities Fund. And what can we use it for? Well, we did get our provincial operating grant from the ministry because I filled in the annual survey and applied for the grant on time. So that's not changing. I haven't got the Canada Revenue Agency annual report off yet, but I should get that done in the next week. We've sent off our contracts to Mulmer and Edgeland Tosseronio townships. So this is the last potential funding that is hanging over our head. I have checked with the Trillium Foundation and it cannot be used for salaries, which is too bad because obviously we're having some issues with, you know, ensuring that we're make compliance with all the COVID requirements in terms of staffing. And if we apply, even though we are a registered charity for the Ontario Trillium Foundation, we're considered part of the municipality. So we have to apply through the municipality. And I'm not sure, and the municipality at this point, or the senior administration, your worship, are not sure whether there is anything they want to apply for. And I haven't come up with anything brilliant either, but I think we need to maybe in October talk about this in a little more depth, because there's only 5,000 to 150,000 to apply for. And if the township wants to latch on and apply for a large portion of that, that would reduce what we could ask for as our part of that one application. It's only one application can be received. So I think we need to give the township a little more time to figure out if they want to make an application before we start coming up with ideas of what we could apply for. I mean, I can apply for this in less than a month, put the application together, but we need to know what we're doing. And to do that, we need to know whether the township is going to be part of that application process. I will say that you can have already spent the money. You can have already, begun the process of spending the money. And
Kind of too late, isn't it?
Well, the other thing, okay, the other thing is it's supposed to be very competitive. So this is not one of those grants where everybody's going to get something.
Mm.
Yeah.
You may put together a really good grant and somebody else gets the money. So really, when you look at it from that point of view, it cannot be something that you desperately need and can't live without. It has to relate to making your services resilient in the times of COVID. But if it's something you absolutely need, and this is how you're going to fund it, you're going to be sorely disappointed if you're not the successful applicant. So that's another, you almost have to apply for something that's going to help, but isn't 100% essential.
Yeah.
So I did include the link to the website, and I encourage you all to go in there and have a look and put your thinking caps on and maybe come back for the October meeting. If we can raise this again, Madam Chair, in October, and we can talk about how best we can move forward on that. And I should, by that point, have a better idea of what the municipality wants to do in terms of an application.
If you get some more specific information about this in the next month before our next meeting, can you share that with us so that as we're sort of thinking up ideas, we know whether that's going to fit in the parameters? I'm thinking that, it's pretty wide here right now, but there might be some more information that comes out.
I think one of
And,
the things I can do, Mary, is to get in touch with other CEOs and find out, the last time when this first came out, I said, what are you going to do? And they all were, only one of them had any concept of what she was going to do.
Yeah.
So I think if I get in touch with them and saying, are you going to apply? If so, what are you going to apply for? I might get a better feel of, oh, okay. Because, you can't think of everything.
no,
Library we're always, stealing somebody else's idea.
yeah. If we share an idea with you, maybe it would be good to share it with everybody because it may spark another idea too. So that might be a good thing.
I will put the call out there to try to get that information, and then I will share it with you guys, and you might be able to develop something off of that, right?
Yeah.
Bob, did you have something?
Yeah, when you sent out your information, you suggested that we take a look at that site and come up with an idea. So I actually did do that. And I was thinking of something that we could probably, I was thinking of Stainer specifically. And looking at the possibility of perhaps getting some equipment that could be used in the hall to facilitate meetings where social distancing could be maintained. And that's something that perhaps some of the service clubs or the sports organizations, social groups, etc., might find of value. And it might also help us in our efforts to do some programming. So whether the town would be interested in something like that because it's their facility, but it would be something that I could see that would be useful for us, but beyond our specific needs as well. It could be used by others. I know, for instance, right now the Lions Club is doing the same thing as we're doing here right now, and that's meeting on a Zoom basis. But one thing that I've noticed is that generating discussions and sort of the off-the-cuff type of ideas that sort of pop into people's heads doesn't seem to work as well on Zoom as it does in face-to-face meetings. And so I think it would be beneficial to try to find some way to have some face-to-face meetings for some of these organizations where they would have a little more free-wheeling discussions and would be available on these virtual meetings. So whether that is something that you want to consider or not, it's just something I thought of, because one of the things that they're looking at is equipment. It's not for, as you say, it's not for wages. You can't pay salaries with it, but if you could get equipment that would get groups meeting again in a more proactive way, that might be something that would be beneficial.
Okay, good.
So you can pass that idea on to the township people that you're talking to, Jennifer.
Yep, we'll see what, Yeah, that's a good one, Bob. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, and my final bit on the CEO's report was about statistics. Well,
Yeah.
until August 19th, we didn't have any statistics. So beginning next month, there will be a statistical report going out to you again. It may be slightly changed from what you normally get because some things just aren't happening. I will say our Wi-Fi usage went down by about 50% when we were closed, but it didn't go away. We had people out there in their cars at all times of day using the Wi-Fi. And county librarian informs me that our Wi-Fi usage is pretty much back up to pre-pandemic levels. So even if they're only coming in and using us for an hour in the building, that doesn't mean that they're not hovering outside in their vehicles. Whether they're going to do that when we've got 2 feet of snow on the ground, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, Bob?
Just wanted to go back and touch on the Stainer branch situation. Have we done a total walk around to identify any deficiencies with respect to the new building, or has that been completed?
That was done by the building committee, and I don't mean our building committee, but the ones that every week with Bonfield to go through things. So yes, before we took occupancy, that occurred. And as a result, they have corrected those deficiencies. I'm calling in now on things that didn't come up in that, you know, HVAC was working fine, and then all of a sudden it went kablooey. And then we called them in. But yes, so all that was done before the township took ownership over the project or ownership, and we moved in.
So the reason I ask is that having been down to the library on a few occasions, I do see some deficiencies or some issues with the building. I don't know whether they've been corrected because I haven't been back looking at them, simply because we haven't had an opportunity to discuss this. So if I see a deficiency that I think should be addressed, what do I do?
No, and I will pass that on to, well, I'll talk to Steve Sage about it, but we'll also talk to Bonfield. Now, if you're looking at the external landscaping around the building, because former board member Richard Paul asked me about some of those things, a lot of that is being scheduled to be done in the spring. Mm-hmm. So those aren't necessarily building deficiencies. They're related to the fact that we did not decide to move forward with the landscaping of the contract, and decided to put it off for a separate time. But yeah, if you find a deficiency, you should let me know, Bob, because I was, well, Steve and I acted as project leaders for that. So I can.
Sometimes things get seen by other eyes. That's the thing. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about the outside, the landscaping at all, because I understand that was taken out of the contract, and the township, I guess, is going to be working on that themselves. Okay, that's great. I'll keep my eye open and let you know. I'll go back and check the things I already identified.
All right, good.
Okay. All right, on to the bank accounts. Anything there that we need to have pointed out? Okay, they're self-explanatory. On to the budget, the preliminary budget. Okay. Any questions there?
Okay, I have a number of issues.
Okay.
Again, don't want to sound like a broken record, but looking at the printout that was included with the agenda, there's a number of things which I have some questions about. So I'll start by just identifying them and we can discuss them. Under other income, there's been a change since we last reviewed this budget. When we sat down as a committee, that line was $6,000 for 2021. And now I see it's $21,000.
Okay,
Yeah, where'd that come from?
okay, so I sent all the figures to the treasurer and she has given me, okay, I will get, so we'll correct that back to what I had given her for 2021. How, on the original document, how far did it take? Do you know what the other numbers were for the subsidy?
So they were $6,000 for 2021 and $17,000 for the remaining 3 years.
Okay. So that's fine. If we can identify things that she's obviously done some of the corrections and not all. Well, that's okay. All right.
So one other thing that I identified here under total utilities, under facilities maintenance, account 663,320. The budget figures that we left the meeting with was 10,200. And I believe that was to include a $5,000 allowance for a accessibility review for Premor. And it appears unchanged at 5,200.
Okay. Right. I'll have that modified as well. I'm not sure why.
Well, was the review supposed to happen this year? Is that why it's 10,000?
So that money will be coming out of it'll be coming out of reserve. Okay, because we've already collected the taxation. And this year, because there hasn't been the time to do the review. So it will go into reserves this year and we will pull it out of reserves for the next year.
Okay.
And are you finding that throughout, Bob, that most of these numbers are things that we had already corrected in the budget committee? Like, I'm just wondering if
These two items were changes from what had been discussed at our last meeting, what we sort of closed the page on the last time.
Yeah.
So when I see them different, that's when I start questioning.
No, that's good. I'm glad you did that.
So the other thing that I have of concern, and that is the same problem we had last time, and that is that the figures that appear for the 2020 budget are not in alignment with the actual budget that the township has on their website. And there's only two areas where this seems to be a problem. But the total operating budget for 2020 on this document is 596,000. And on the township's budget, it's 610,000.
Yeah, that's the salaries and wages.
That's correct. Yes.
I'm just checking a document here. If you can just bear with me for a second. Okay. Oh, God, give me a second.
So if you're looking at the township's budget, it's on page 22.
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm just trying to go through documents that Kelly has given me and see if one of them is correct. There's too many budget lines. Who can find anything in all this mess? Okay, all right, yeah, okay. Where I was, close this. Okay, that's not right. All right. So download. Yeah. To here and share screen.
Can I ask a question to Bob? Bob, are you referring to the 2020 budget or the 2021 budget? And you say there's a discrepancy on the township website versus our website?
So no, the document that we have here that was included with the agenda.
Yes, I'm looking at that.
This
Yeah.
is the proposed budget. The first column is 2020. And that's where our figures disagree with what's on the township's website.
Oh, so you're saying the 596 is not in line with what the township publishes on our website?
That's right. So the approved budget was 610,000. And it appears on this document as 596.
Okay, so
Got it up there now.
yeah, so this is the latest thing that she sent me, Bob. All right, which is not what I sent you guys because I didn't have it then. And if you scroll down,
Okay, if you just look at that document, the total for salaries, wages and benefits, under budget proposed 2020, it says $610,000.
right, so this is what I'm very sorry, but this is what she has gone through and revised. So that I can send this out to you all.
So what
But this was
we're
something
looking at is not what we're
2017.
really being asked to approve tonight?
No. So, yeah, so this has just been, let me see if I can actually email this to you without.
This is proposed, it was a couple of years ago that we came up with this, so it's out of date.
What? The document that I'm sharing with you?
Yeah, if we made it in 218.
No, it's showing you what we spent, what the budget was for 218, what it was for 219, what it was for 220, and what it is going on to 2024.
Okay.
Now, why it doesn't have 2025 there, I don't know, but oh, well, that's nice. Let's get it back where it was. That's enough. Down. Shh. Okay, documents. Okay, hold on to your hat. We'll try to be quiet. And now I will email this out to you. I can find it. Okay, so
Just got it.
okay. So it would be easier if you're. Now, I do have to say, this is what she sent me. And I don't see anything for 2025, and we certainly did put in. Oh, Bob, you're good at this. When you look through the thing that I've just sent you, do you
Yeah.
think that it's more in tune with what we had approved or what you had approved at the budget committee meeting?
Okay, so I'm looking now, and the $610,000 is in the right place. And just look, I'm going to look at the other one that I had, which was facilities maintenance. And oh, this doesn't control. Where's that? This line here. 137. Okay, so facilities maintenance has been corrected as well.
Okay,
So, okay, so if the document that we have before us aligned with what I see in front of me here from this amended copy, looks like it's okay. I'm just gonna, 2021 other income. Okay, so the other income miscellaneous revenue line is still out of whack. So that that's perhaps something that they input incorrectly there.
okay.
And what was the other one? Back in facilities maintenance. And that was 2021.
Okay, all right.
And the facilities maintenance total that we had increased by $5,000 still remains at the $5,200. So that didn't get caught.
And you were so right.
So that is line
Okay, yep.
63,320.
Yep, so they're still wrong.
Yeah.
So the only thing she's managed to correct is the salaries. Okay. Your worship and Councillor Broderick, you would know better than me. Now, in my discussions with the township treasurer, she has indicated that she thinks probably budget deliberations might get pushed out a bit. Our next meeting is October 20th. I can go back with her and hammer this out again. And we could meet then, or we can meet,
Have a special meeting.
have a special meeting, or I can by hand go in and make the corrections that the preliminary, that the budget committee made and shoot that out to you.
I can jump in there, Jen. I met with the treasurer today just to firm up what we're doing as far as this meeting on the 23rd. And for Councillor Broderick's benefit, that's obviously a workshop session for council to set budget priorities. So that meeting takes place, and then the staff will then present the staff budget following that. So it won't be any time sooner than the second week of October. So what you said, the 14th? that, Jennifer, is that the date you wrote down?
October
right?
20th is our meeting.
October the 20th.
20. Oh, that's our meeting, the board meeting here,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Jennifer, did you have I think it's the 14th or something, isn't it, for the senior staff meeting? Is that the date?
Let me just,
Anyway.
senior staff is the 15th of October.
There you go. That's the date. So that's when you need to have it prepared so that the treasurer can then present to council the full package. So,
Well, but the board has to approve it before we can present it to council.
oh, I understand.
Still need some preliminary.
Again,
Not that I haven't given her all the figures 50 times, but
I get it.
actually come out with a document that says that.
Respectfully, we all got to be flexible right now because with COVID, this is very difficult, right? So
And
even
granted,
hosting this meeting is difficult. So
yes.
I get it.
So would it be okay with you if I go back and work with Kelly McDonald again on getting the budget document to look the way it's supposed to, and getting that back from her and doing some more back and forth, and then coming back to you, and I will email you all, not part of a agenda package, but as soon as I have it and I think it's right, I can send it out to you all and you can look it over, especially those of you who are on the budget committee. And then we can maybe set a date for a very short meeting to approve the budget and have it specifically for that purpose, a special meeting of the board. Madam Chair, would that be acceptable?
Sounds like a good idea.
Okay, yes, and I'm sorry about this. Well, we talked about shit shows and here's another one.
Listen, I would recommend if you want to just continue to go through the as presented budget, and then if there's any problems, just make some notes there, Jennifer, and then you can discuss them with Treasury and get that mail. Make it simpler for council, or sorry, for this board meeting in the future to approve it if we go through it.
I think Bob really hit the main ones, was that the other income was being reduced, and you mentioned the numbers that the board budget committee had approved, and the bit of wonkiness there with the salaries.
Yeah.
And all, the final one was moving the accessibility review into 2021. And
Just to support Bob on that crazy question about salary, wages, and benefit line. This book right here that I have, which is the whole budget book, it shows it as 618,000, not 610. So
it says 610 on the website.
I know it says 610 on the website, 618 in here.
I'm not going to
96 in here.
Who are we going to believe?
I concur with you completely, Bob. So we got to get that straightened out. So that's an excellent point for Jennifer to take to the Treasury and ask for clarification.
Okay. Well, then we won't be approving anything today, but I will get you something that makes more sense. I think one of the things we're going to have to do is, well, we haven't been really printing anything on 8.5 by 14 or even larger, but I think we're going to have to start doing that in-house, because looking at these numerous years and all the budget lines is really, especially if you're trying to do it on the screen. And then things get messed up. So I will talk to Kelly about that, and we'll move.
So
I think the budget committee had a really good budget. It's just not coming out to you. Yes, Bob.
So there are 4 other numbers.
Okay. Now, are those the same as what I just sent you?
Same idea, okay?
Okay.
I don't know, to be honest, I closed that. I didn't look at that. So maybe you could tell me whether they've been changed in your copy. And it's on the last page, and it's the summary numbers.
Okay.
So the transfer to reserves, and this may be just where it's put, because we are dealing with loan repayment, and reserves, transfer to reserves, in kind of a fluid thing. It appears in one place on one budget and another place on another budget, but it's all there. But the number that she has got recorded here, $175,000, is actually zero on the township's budget. The copy I have.
Okay, so on the new thing I've sent you for 2018 and 2019, you see 175,000 for transfer
right.
reserves. And from then on in it's zero. And I did, no, okay, you've got something else.
It says 175 all the way across.
Yeah,
That's okay, except that the township's published budget is zero for that line.
okay, so she has corrected that to indicate zero after 2019.
I'd like to jump in here if I could.
Yeah.
That's because we will be paying the debt. And so they eliminated that contribution because that contribution is now going to go to pay debt maintenance. So the $175,000, once we actually have a number from the bank as to how much we actually are going to be paying per year to manage the deficit or the debt, we will be creating a new line for contributions to reserves, and adding a new digit in there. But from that 175,000, we're going to use that to make the payment on the debenture against the build. So that's why the current budget is presented at zero, because it hasn't been approved. Like, we haven't signed the bank loan on the bill as this time yet. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm pointing out here is the differential between what appears on the township's published budget and what appears on the budget we've been asked to approve.
Okay, so the published budget is based on what was approved by a motion of council, right? So this budget that you have in front of you, the most recent iteration that Jennifer just sent out, shows zeros after 2021, right?
It does online.
That's not correct. If you look at line 660770,
It does on the email she sent us on the township one, Bob. Not on the
well,
paper.
that's what I was asking, if Jennifer could tell me what was in the one that you just sent me, because I closed my.
Oh, okay.
Zero after this year.
It says zero from 2020 on because we will be signing a loan.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
The next line, funding for capital. The amount on our report that I'm looking at here is 91,900. And on the township's published budget, it's 90,700. It's not a big difference, but it's not the same number.
Okay, I will check on that too.
Now, total expense line is just the next line. It's also different. On what we're looking at here, 1,350,920, and it's 1,223,700 on the township's published budget.
Okay, so the first number was 1,300,000 and
350,920. What you sent to us.
okay, I will talk to her about that as well.
And the last line, again, we received your document here. It says 1,198,520. And the township's version is 1,071,400. And I cannot figure out what the difference is. So
Different again on that email, so.
Okay, we will get this sorted out, but I'm glad you brought those things out so that I know what I need to talk to her about.
So Diane, are you telling me that what appeared on the email we received
It's totally different.
are the same as the published?
No, they're all different.
They're all different. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll
There-
get this sorted, Bob. And
Okay.
if I do, I will send it out to everybody. I will copy Kelly. And I will then leave it up to Madam Chair to come up with a date and a time for a board meeting.
Okay.
For the sole purpose of dealing with the budget.
Dealing with the budget, yeah. It should be pretty quick if we've got the information.
Bob, you've raised good points, but I think when we're looking at the budget for, especially for the 2021, the big things that will be different is we expect that the revenue, although I do anticipate that we will start charging again and collecting fines and fees, that sort of thing. We expect it will be down. Also, we will be moving the accessibility review into 2021. It won't cost the taxpayers anything in 2021 because we've already charged them for it in 2020. It's just not happening this year. So in terms of projects or expectations, we obviously have to have all the numbers right, but those are the two things that we're really looking at. If we go further into 2021, I have requested that we ask the township for an additional $10,000 for staffing, because you can't have, at some point we're going to do in-person programming, but I think the appetite for virtual programming is not going to go away, and you can't expect staff to do double duty on a prolonged ongoing basis. We're going to need some additional staffing to support that. But that's off in 2021, and God, let's just get through, or 2022, and that we need to get through 2020 and 2021 first. So that can be looked at again in more depth in 2021 when we're working on the 2022 budget.
Yep.
So
But
just
From my
to
orders, I need to go back and work with Kelly on those numbers.
yeah, just to finish off what I was going to say here. The other things in the budget are, as we discussed at our budget meeting, and if it wasn't for these things, I'd be making a motion right now to approve the budget. So as long as
many
the
things
correct,
that-
we can deal with it later then.
We'll get these sorted out, Bob, and I'll make sure, Michelle, you're going to be doing more work because I'm going to be working on this for the next week or so. But that's okay. I'll make sure that you all get it in lots of time so that you have time to go over it, make sure it's the right thing, and then you'll get it again when we set up a board meeting.
Did you want to go over the budget notes?
Well,
I mean, we've discussed some of them, but
anything else? If I can find them. Okay, so we've talked about the operating revenue. I anticipate we're going to hire summer students next summer, so that's in there. I don't know what we're going to do with the Ontario Trillium Foundation's Resilient Communities Fund yet. We'll need to think about that. That's in terms of operating revenue. I am not expecting the provincial operating and pay equity grant to change over the next year. User fees obviously will, miscellaneous revenue. I think we're going to see an increase over 2020 for our contracts with our municipalities, because when everything shut down, I heard from a lot of people outside of Clearview in Agilitos and Mulmer who wanted membership so they could use our electronic resources. Now that's never a huge budget item to begin with, but still, you know, we like our money. I've talked about the salaries going up possibly in 2021 that we've asked for. We're still continuing to help out the New Lowell United Church Board by paying them rent for their facility, which not only provides us access to their facility, which they're not letting anybody have at this time anyways, but we can use their parking lot, because even if they continue to not want to have people in their accessible meeting area, when we're back to being able to provide some kind of in-library program, there are times when we need that parking lot, and that was part of the deal, is that we'd be able to utilize their parking lot. Memberships, as the municipality grows in size, some of our membership fees increase because they're based on size. So when we hit that magic number of 15,000 population, we will be seeing some memberships increase some things minor, some things a little more dramatic. The numbers should be in that budget document. And then you're going to have to make some decisions, but you don't need to make any decisions for 2021 at this point. Performance programs, we did purchase a movie license. The length of time for the annual license has been extended from when libraries closed to when they were able to reopen. Michelle is actively looking at how can we do that. Can we even do that before the community center opens? And how do we do that? How are other libraries doing that? And how could we do that? So we certainly intend to continue to utilize that. It's just going to take a bit of planning that normally we wouldn't have to do. We have PC reservation now at our Stainer branches, which is great because then people, after an hour, they're logged off. We are actually telling people they only get half an hour on computers, but this way you get lots of warnings. So if somebody complains that they only got an hour and they didn't get a warning, they're not telling you the truth. But we're rolling it out. The concept was to roll it out at the Stainer branch before we decide to move it on to the next 2 branches. I think there's only maybe 2 other libraries in Simcoe County that aren't using it at this point. And Sprig, we had a talk with Tammy Gill, who is the Township Human Resource Officer. And of course, she's had lots of work to do. So we're moving the training for Sprig off till next year, and we'll start the performance program in 2020. Facility maintenance, we talked about that. And special project, okay, so the special projects budget line, especially when in this package, you see the general ledger, or I think it was, the date was September 11th, maybe. If you see anything under that line, that is the budget line that the township treasurer told me to put anything COVID related. So if we've had to purchase masks or other PPE, or when we purchased the glass partitions around the circulation desk, and when we purchased washable keyboards for the public computers so that staff aren't spending a lot of time doing fancy cleaning because you don't want to wreck the keyboard, that's where you're going to see those items listed. And that's pretty much the budget notes.
Okay.
I apologize for this being a little messed up, but it won't be when I get it to you the next time.
Right. Good. All right, now we have our GL. Anything there that we need to, other than the fact that we've percentage used is 152 at the end, which is kind of weird because nothing else is anywhere near that. How did that happen?
I don't know. I don't even see that we're that high.
No, that's why I don't understand why the total at the end is 152% used.
I'll ask her about that because that doesn't match up.
No, it doesn't.
163. That's probably got to do with the building though, because if you look at the budget, it's got 0 for the building. And what we've actually spent is much more than that. That does not mean that we've gone over budget on the building. It simply means that we were supposed to be in it last year. Right? Because last year, I believe the move-in date was supposed to be October. So it wasn't done until this year. We didn't, well, it wasn't their fault that we didn't move in until we did because everything got closed down. But that's why you're seeing that, Diane. Okay, so if you remove that from the equation, we'd be doing really good.
Yeah. So Jennifer, you said at some point you're going to put all the, you're not going to keep splitting up the salaries between the branches because it doesn't really work. When is that going to?
I think it's gobbledygook, but I've talked to the township treasurer and she really wants things to be cost centered. My concern is that my programming staff who are mainly the full-timers, you know, if they're doing the program in 3 branches, when do I, you know, it's hard to chalk up their time.
Yeah.
I could say they're in that branch, but to me, when you see, oh, Stainer branch costs this much to run, it really looks more like, it looks top heavy because most of them work out of the Stainer branch. So I've talked to her and she said, okay, if that's what they're doing and it's programming aspect and they're not working on the desk or they're doing something else, because our children's librarian, for example, is in charge of interlibrary loan, which we are starting up again on October 6th.
Yeah, so
And that takes a chunk of her time. She also does some admin work, and that takes up a chunk of her time. Then start putting that into admin so that you get a better projection of what the cost to run the overarching work of the organization is. And when you look at Stainer, Creemore, and New Lowell branch wage costs, it's really related to the circulation of materials and what our circ staff do, which is beyond just circulating materials, but you understand what I mean. That is the work of the branch,
right.
not something that is throughout the system.
Right.
So I haven't initiated that now, and I'm not sure whether I will until the beginning of the year, because if I do it now, it's
Yeah, no, you can't.
gobbledygook. But I think come January 2nd, that is how we will approach doing this budget. And then when you look at what the costs are for the Stainer, for Creemore, and New Lowell, you're going to see what it at. Then you can take those figures and break it down and say, well, what is it costing hourly, open hour basis,
Right.
for the service?
Right. Okay.
So that's how we worked it out.
All right.
And then it will tell us something too.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find some old time clocks and let them punch in and punch out.
Yeah.
It will be a little, it will be a little problematic, but that at least will tell us something, because as Michelle knows, sometimes, well, pre-pandemic, there was 1 or 2 times a week where our children's librarian was going down and working circ desk to cover lunch shift at Creemore.
Okay.
He was going to do a program after, so it's fine. We needed somebody to cover lunch, get her to do it. Well, then I need to, this would reflect the fact that part of her time is working in circulation and not doing her normal job.
We also do programming elsewhere out of the branches when you go into.
Yeah, and we're going to, that would come under.
That's not reflected.
as well, because that's something else I said. Normally we're at the GNE for 1 to 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, and that's usually Michelle along with some volunteers and sometimes some circ staff.
Yeah.
But how do I record that? Because that's not related to a branch at all.
Yeah.
Right? That's global.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think doing it this way will make the township treasurer happy, but also allow to use the system already set up to create some meaningful statistics for us. We will understand better what things are costing, and we'll know what our administration is costing, and we can list out, okay, these are the jobs, this is what's getting done, and this is what it's costing. It just, to me, makes a lot more sense.
It also, as if it's Kimberly, if I might say, Jennifer, I think it gives us a better reflection of the fact that it is a library system and not, you know, the Creemore Library and the Stainer Library, and people still seem to have those, you know, concept of them as separate. And I think this further promotes the reality that they're not, that we're a system.
Well, I think we're always going to have that for as long as we live, to a certain extent, from the users. But what we really need to get through is to our funders is that, you know, this is not a cost of Creemore, this is not a cost of Stainer, this is a cost of the Clearview Public Library System. Now, they will also see that there are costs specific to a branch, just as we've split out the facilities maintenance, and we can see which, you know, you could actually sit down and figure out what, on an open hour basis, what does each of these branches cost us?
Right.
So yeah, you're right. I really think it's important to get through to the key people who are looking at funding or looking at ways to enhance services. And even when you're just talking to the public about things, even if they do think Creemore, New Lowell, Stayner, you need a way to show them that these things are across three buildings and beyond. And this is a way to do it. So I think having talked to Kelly, we can make this work.
Thank you. All right. Is there any new business that anybody would like to bring up? Tom?
Thank you. So if, as and when the library sells, and I guess maybe it sounds like it's imminent at this point, but whenever it does sell, I'm wondering whether the township intends to put the money towards the debenture, to reduce the debenture. Is that been decided at this point, or is that still a work in progress? Worship, do you, yeah.
The discussion has not come to council to decide that. It probably will be a discussion with council. It's interesting because as you said, the imminent sale will probably coincide with the budget discussion. So we'll probably be able to, come to a realization is that we can, provide obviously some savings. And it's not been decided yet. So that's a good recommendation, and I'm sure council will consider it.
One of the things that I have been thinking about was that if we had if our reserves were sort of plundered to do some urgent repairs in the old building, which enhanced the value of the building. So that money that we spent is coming back to the township. So in effect, we could refund at least that portion of it to the library's reserve account, but then that reserve account is being used to reduce the debenture costs. So 6 of one, half dozen of the other, but I think it should be kept in mind anyway when to keep the library's cost down as much as possible for going through the future. It'll reduce our debt servicing costs.
For sure, that's an excellent point. We have to deal with the debt, which is right in front of us, but we should also be cognizant to make sure that we invest in our reserves to do capital replacements in the future. We still own 2 other buildings, which are now becoming aged, even though we obviously rebuilt New Lowell, it still has renovations and still has maintenance that needs to be maintained. And certainly the branch in Creemore is now, I guess, your oldest branch, would it not? Yes, it would be. But nevertheless, we do have to keep putting money into reserves. So you're right. There could be a discussion about whether we replenish reserves and keep that healthy so that we can draw upon it for the future. But
your point is well taken, because I think in our long-term plans, Creemore was identified as needing to have some attention. And sure. I don't recall, was it 2025 that we had originally looked at?
I think that's been a moving target.
Yeah. Or I don't know if it was 2025 or 2035, but we had put something in our long-term budgeting to look at resolving the situation in Creemore that's somewhat too small for the use it's getting. So
yeah. Well, listen, the good news is, and you'll probably hear this when you hear discussions about the overall budget. The good news is that the community is growing. Our tax base is growing. Our property values have changed. So all of us that are taxpayers and property owners in the township will probably notice that your impact assessments have changed the values of your property, which of course changes the amount of taxation that you have to pay. So it's right across the whole community, and that's a good thing. And in support of what the library is doing, when we build a bigger community and have more residents living here, the demand for library services continues to rise. So you're right. we have to continue to make some investments. So anyway, to be honest, we're actually in really healthy condition here as far as the finances for the township, and this debenture that we'll be dealing with for the library, which we'll handle probably in the next couple of months, will be pretty good. I think we're in really good shape to handle that, and it's a good plan moving forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other new business? No, okay.
Okay, I have something under new business. So Connie got in touch with me, Councillor Leishman today, and advised me that she's going to take a leave from council and therefore also to the board. So I've been in touch with the clerk and I haven't heard back yet. Connie wanted another council member to sit in her place. I've been advised by the ministry that council needs to make a motion to replace the council members sitting on the board. So I'm waiting to hear back from the clerk on how that will proceed.
Okay. All right, thank you. It would be nice if we had a replacement councillor. Okay, so we'll entertain a motion to adjourn then. Would somebody like to make that motion? Pam, seconded by Mary or anybody? Yeah. So we're all in favor.
All in favor.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we're going to continue with the Zoom format, Jennifer?
I certainly for October and for our budget meeting.
Okay.
And then we'll see where we are. The uptick in COVID cases has been higher than we would like. And I think it's a little premature for us to decide to meet in person. And where would we meet?
Yeah.
I would say we would meet in the community center in Steiner, but it's not open yet. So I think we have to at least virtually Zoom one more time.
All right, thank you. All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Well,
everybody.
thank you for all the organizing and information. Much appreciated.
Yeah.
We'll get things sorted.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, we will.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Adios.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.